the brutal Japanese practice that builds unbreakable willpower, Shugyō. Imagine waking up before the sun, stepping barefoot into a freezing stream, and holding your posture still as ice water crashes over your body. Not for a few seconds, not for a photo, but for minutes. Every morning, in silence, no camera, no applause, only the breath, the cold, and the mind's resistance screaming at you to stop. Now imagine doing this not as a punishment, but as a path to clarity, to strength, to something deeper than motivation. This is not a scene from a samurai film or a survival reality show. This is Shugyō, and it's one of the most brutally honest practices for building unbreakable willpower that the modern world has almost completely forgotten. But this video isn't just about enduring pain. It's about understanding the psychology, the philosophy, and the why behind this ancient Japanese discipline. Shugyō is not just about cold water, isolation, or long hours of practice. It's about committing to a way of life that puts your spirit under pressure not to break it, but to reveal it. Shugyō is about facing discomfort so consistently that comfort loses its power over you. And in a world addicted to ease, that's a kind of rebellion, a necessary one. So let's go deeper. Why do people seek out this kind of hardship? Why voluntarily put yourself in situations that strip you down to your rawest self? The answer lies in what we've lost. In modern life, we've built systems to protect us from discomfort. Climate-controlled rooms, instant answers, infinite distractions. But in doing so, we've also insulated ourselves from what discomfort teaches: discipline, patience, humility, and the ability to endure. Shugyō restores what comfort has stolen. It's not about masochism. It's about purification. It's about removing the noise so you can finally hear your own will again. And here's where it gets philosophical. In Japanese tradition, Shugyō is often translated as austere training, but that doesn't capture its full weight. The word comes from the kanji Chinese letter, Shu meaning to master or to refine, and Chinese letter, Jiu meaning practice or conduct. Together they imply a kind of spiritual forging, a process of grinding away what is false or weak in you, until only what is essential remains. This is not about achievement, it's about alignment. The goal isn't to impress others, but to become so deeply anchored in your truth that nothing external can shake you.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's pause a moment. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped avoiding discomfort and started using it? How many goals have you delayed because of fear? How many times have you said, "I'm not ready," when what you really meant was, "I don't want to suffer"? Shugyō teaches us that the path to readiness is not comfort, it's confrontation. Confrontation with your limits, with your mind's excuses, with the small voice in your head that says you can't. Because here's the secret. That voice only grows louder when you try to avoid it. But when you meet it daily, when you invite it to speak and keep going anyway, it loses its power, and something else takes its place: resolve. Now, if this sounds extreme, that's because it is. Shugyō is not for everyone, but maybe that's the point. Because in a world where most people want change without challenge, where we crave transformation without tension, the few who choose this path become something rare, unshakable. They don't just act disciplined, they are disciplined. They don't just talk about purpose, they live it. And they don't crumble when life tests them, because they've already tested themselves 1,000 times in silence, in struggle, in solitude. And the most brutal part of Shugyō, it's not the cold, the repetition, or the exhaustion. It's the mirror, the inner mirror that shows you who you truly are when no one is watching. When there's no reward, no applause, just you and the question. Are you willing to do what's necessary, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when no one cares? That's where willpower is born, not from desire, but from consistency in the face of discomfort. And not just once, but over and over, until it becomes your way of being. Let me ask you something most people run from. What if avoiding pain is the very thing keeping you weak? What if your potential isn't being blocked by your circumstances, your past, or your resources, but by your relationship to struggle? Shugyō asks you to stop negotiating with pain, to stop waiting for the right mood, the right time, the right motivation. It asks you to become the kind of person who moves anyway, who chooses effort over ease, silence over validation, depth over distraction. Because when you strip everything away, your phone, your titles, your comfort, you're left with the one thing that truly matters, your will. And the brutal truth is, most people don't know what their will is made of because they've never tested it, but Shugyō does. And in doing so, it doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you real. The fire beneath stillness, how Shugyō uses repetition and silence to forge identity at first glance. Shugyō seems like a paradox. How can stillness be intense? How can repetition doing the same thing over and over be a path to personal transformation? We live in a world obsessed with novelty, with stimulation, with the next thing. But Shugyō is the opposite. It strips away variety and forces you to meet yourself in the silence between distractions. And in that silence, something reveals itself. Something inside, something essential. Shugyō teaches us that greatness isn't found in dramatic moments, it's forged in the fire of quiet, invisible commitment. Let's think about repetition for a moment. In the modern world, repetition is often seen as boring, even pointless. We want progress to feel exciting, to come with visible markers, badges, views, applause. But Shugyō teaches that repetition is not just habit, it is refinement. It is a sacred ritual that scrapes away what is unnecessary until only the essence remains. The same gesture, the same breath, the same movement, again and again, not because you're stuck, but because you are digging deeper. Every repetition is an act of rebellion against the ego's hunger for novelty. And every repetition carves your identity a little more sharply. Repetition is how the sword becomes sharp. It's how the monk becomes still. It's how the human becomes unbreakable. But here's the catch. Repetition without attention is just going through the motions. Shugyō demands more. It demands that you be fully present inside the repetition. That you are not just swinging a sword, but engaging your mind, body, and spirit in one unified action. And this is where the transformation begins, because you're not just building skill, you're building self. Every act becomes a mirror. Every breath becomes a test. Can you stay focused? Can you stay humble? Can you stay in the fire, even when it's not glamorous? And then there's the silence. We're terrified of silence. We think it's empty. But in Shugyō, silence is the forge. It's the space where the mind begins to unravel its noise. In silence, you can no longer hide behind distractions. You can't scroll it away. You can't numb it with conversations or entertainment. In silence, you meet the raw truth of your own thoughts, your fears, your doubts, and most people run from that. But Shugyō invites it. It wants you to hear the chaos inside, because only by facing it can you transcend it. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you sat in stillness with no goal, no escape, and no one to impress? When was the last time you let the silence speak? There is a fire beneath stillness, and that fire is your awareness. It burns away the false images you've built of yourself. It burns away your excuses. It demands honesty. Shugyō uses this fire to purify not just your actions, but your identity. Because in that stillness, you begin to remember who you really are, beneath the noise, beneath the performance. Not who you show the world, but who you are when the world isn't watching. And this is why Shugyō is not a technique. It's a way of being that transcends motivation. Motivation fades, passion wavers, but identity, that's different. When you become someone who shows up no matter what, who embraces repetition, who welcomes silence, then effort is no longer something you need to force. It's just who you are. And that's the real power of Shugyō. It doesn't just train your body, it trains your self-concept. It transforms your relationship with yourself. Most people try to change by adding more goals, more tasks, more strategies. But Shugyō teaches the opposite. Subtract, simplify, strip away everything that's not essential. And what's left is pure. What's left is you. Not the version of you shaped by culture, trends, or fear, but the version shaped by fire, forged in silence, and revealed through repetition. So here's the deeper question. What would change in your life if you stopped trying to become someone and instead started living as if you already were that person? Shugyō doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It says, act now, move now, be now. And when you do that, over and over, you stop chasing identity and start embodying it. Because silence is not empty, it's full of answers. Repetition is not dull, it's the path to mastery. Stillness is not weakness, it is the birthplace of strength. Pain is the doorway. Why Shugyō turns suffering into sovereignty. Pain is the one experience every human being shares, yet it's the one we spend our lives trying to escape. We medicate it, distract from it, deny it, and pray it never comes. But Shugyō offers a radically different perspective. It doesn't avoid pain. It walks directly into it. Not recklessly, not masochistically, but intentionally. Because pain in this ancient discipline is not an enemy. It is a teacher, a sacred gatekeeper, a doorway. And if you can stop running from it, if you can stand in its presence and let it teach you, you don't just build willpower, you build sovereignty. Shugyō practitioners understand something most of us forget. Pain is not just physical. It's mental, emotional, existential. It's the ache of being human. The tension between who we are and who we want to be. The dissonance between our ideals and our actions. And the deeper truth is, pain always has something to say. It's a signal. But we've been conditioned to silence it, to numb it. We treat pain like a glitch in the system, instead of the system's most honest feedback. Shugyō flips that narrative. It says, listen to it, welcome it, let it refine you. In Shugyō, pain is woven into the practice by design. Long hours of repetition, relentless physical strain, mental silence, cold, fatigue, hunger not to punish, but to purify. These aren't obstacles, they are tools. Because real growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. It happens when you are stretched beyond the point of preference, when you are stripped of the stories you've told yourself about what you can and can't handle. Pain burns away illusions. It doesn't ask for your permission, it just reveals the truth. But here's where it gets deep. Shugyō doesn't just use pain to toughen you, it uses it to liberate you. Because once you realize you can endure it, that it doesn't own you, that you can walk into it and come out more focused, more grounded, then your fear of pain starts to dissolve. And when fear dissolves, what remains is freedom. The kind of freedom that can't be taken from you because it's not based on external conditions. It's based on your inner strength, your ability to choose your response, no matter what life throws at you. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you stopped running from pain and started working with it? What would happen if you treated every uncomfortable moment not as something to avoid, but as training, as a sharpening of your edges, a call to presence, a reminder of your own resilience? Shugyō teaches that we don't become powerful by avoiding suffering, we become powerful by learning how to hold it. Not collapse beneath it, not pretend it's not there, but hold it with awareness and intention, and let it shape us into something more precise, more intentional, more real. And this is where sovereignty enters the picture. Sovereignty isn't about ruling others. It's about ruling yourself, your thoughts, your reactions, your choices. Most people live as slaves to their comfort, to their cravings, to their moods. But Shugyō offers you something different. Not control over the world, but control over your center. A rootedness so deep that even when the world shakes, you don't. And that kind of control, that kind of sovereignty can only be forged in the fire of discomfort. This doesn't mean you seek out suffering for its own sake. It means you stop fearing it. You stop letting it dictate your limits. You start seeing it as a necessary part of the journey. Because every great transformation is preceded by some kind of pain. The pain of letting go. The pain of growth, the pain of facing your own shadows. Shugyō creates a space where that pain is not only expected, it's respected. And that changes everything. So I'll ask you again, but deeper this time. What if your pain is not a curse, but a compass? What if it's pointing you toward the very place you've been avoiding? The very lesson you need to learn, the very strength you've yet to discover. Shugyō doesn't ask you to believe in your potential. It asks you to prove it, not to others, to yourself. Through pain, through repetition, through presence, through the sacred fire of discomfort. Because in the end, pain is not just something to survive. It's something to integrate, to learn from, and to transcend. And on the other side of that fire is not just strength, it's sovereignty. The final ascent, how Shugyō transforms the ordinary life into a warrior's path. At some point, we all wake up to a quiet crisis. Maybe it comes in the middle of success, when everything you thought would fulfill you leaves you hollow. Maybe it comes during failure, when your plans collapse and you no longer recognize yourself. Or maybe it creeps in slowly, disguised as boredom, restlessness, a vague sense that something essential is missing. That's the voice of the soul, stirring beneath the surface, whispering, there must be more than this. And Shugyō, the brutal, beautiful path of spiritual training, answers that whisper not with promises, but with discipline. Not with comfort, but with clarity. It offers a way to transform even the most ordinary life into something sacred, something forged, something worthy of the word warrior. Because here's the truth. You don't need to live in a monastery or train with a sword to walk the Shugyō path. You can live it in the city, in traffic, at your job, in your relationships. Shugyō is not about location, it's about intention. It's about how you show up to your life, how you do the smallest things with the precision and presence of someone who knows that every act is a chance to become more awake, more disciplined, more alive. Making your bed becomes training. Walking becomes meditation. Speaking becomes a form of mastery. And suddenly, life is no longer mundane, it's a dojo. But Shugyō demands something modern life resists: sacrifice. Not sacrifice in the religious sense, but the kind that burns away distraction and laziness. The kind that forces you to choose what matters most. Because this path doesn't allow you to stay divided. It doesn't let you pretend. It pulls your contradictions to the surface and says, look, choose. You cannot walk the warrior's path with a fragmented spirit. You must become whole. And to become whole, you must let go of what is false, even if it hurts. So the question becomes, what are you willing to give up to become who you truly are? Are you willing to give up convenience for consistency? Ego for humility? Comfort for character? Shugyō will ask for all of that, not because it wants to strip you down, but because it wants to reveal your core. And at that core is something stronger than motivation, stronger than talent, stronger even than desire. What's there once all the noise is gone is will. Pure, focused, unshakable will. And this is where the ordinary transforms. Because the moment you stop waiting for some ideal condition, the moment you stop chasing quick fixes and start treating every moment as a chance to train your spirit, you are no longer just surviving. You are honoring life. Every breath becomes intentional. Every challenge becomes fuel. You stop asking, how can I escape this? And start asking, how can I face this with strength? And that shift, that single inner pivot, changes everything. You won't be perfect. That's not the point. You'll fall, you'll fail, you'll forget. But Shugyō isn't about never falling. It's about how you rise, how you return to the path again and again, no matter what. That's the essence of the warrior's spirit. Not aggression, but commitment. Not domination, but discipline. And that spirit doesn't need a battlefield. It needs your life, your real, messy, demanding, beautiful life. That is your training ground. That is your temple. So now, at the end of this journey, I ask you, what if you stopped waiting to feel ready and started living as if this moment was the test? What if you treated your life as the dojo, your struggles as the training, and your discomfort as the teacher? Shugyō doesn't promise ease. It promises revelation. It promises that if you walk into the fire with your eyes open, if you embrace repetition, silence, pain, and discipline not to impress anyone, but to become someone, you will emerge with something no one can take from you. Yourself. That is the offering of Shugyō. To turn your ordinary life into a sacred path, to awaken the warrior within you, to live with depth, discipline, and unbreakable will. Not someday, but now.